My name is Jamey. Hi, everybody. My name is Jamey Harvey. I'm the CEO of Agilian, and it is my pleasure to be hosting Anna Dunn as our special guest today to talk about her digital transformation. Anna, can you say a few words to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jamie, and a pleasure to be here. So, my name is Anna Dunn. As Jamie said, I run the organization called Health Services for Children with Special Needs. We are the district's best hidden secret. We have been in existence for 30 years, serving pediatric and young adults with disabilities living in the district, providing healthcare services. We're not a healthcare delivery provider, we're a health insurance plan. And we serve about 5,000 children and young adults ages up to 26 who either have SSI or are SSI eligible. And we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Children's National.
So really the SSI population is the disabled population. So you're servicing the disabled children who are on Medicaid in the district.
Yes, and I probably should also mention that part of our enrollment are also children that are in custody of Child and Family Services Agency, essentially foster care. We're in Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, which is incarcerated youth. So really the most vulnerable of the vulnerable DC residents.
Fantastic. So could you share the story of how you decided to embark on a digital transformation? Was there a moment when you realized you had to do it? Could you tell us that story?
That was definitely the light bulb that went in my head. So I started. I have been involved with HSCSN for many years, since 2006. And we started as a non-for-profit grassroots organization, really dedicated to the mission of serving the enrollees. And we grew over time. That said, the healthcare delivery landscape changed significantly, especially post Affordable Care Act. And we, as a non-for-profit organization, really haven't had a lot of opportunities. We evolved our services, but we really never focused on our technology platform and haven't really considered it as the enabler of our business. So then you kind of fast forward. I was on the board of directors of the organization, kind of fast forward to 2016, 2018, when the market really started evolving with all of the mergers and acquisitions, and the health insurance space for individuals with disabilities changed tremendously. There are new market entrants. The big health insurance companies started interested in our lines of business. The CMS started regulating the business significantly. So the expectations of our regulators changed. So when I took this job in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, I really kind of realized that one is we don't have the technology infrastructure to support the necessary growth and operational maturity of the business in order for us to stay competitive. Nor really we can access the data easily in order to support the decision making, the quick decision making that is needed in order for us not only to stay competitive, but mostly meet the needs of the enrollees of the population that we serve. So with that, kind of, there are definitely a lot of different priorities, but updating and improving our data infrastructure became my top priority.
I mean, you had a very clear, that's about the time that we met, and you had a very clear vision right from the start that you needed to have a single trusted source of truth for your data. So what problems or symptoms did you run into that made you realize you needed to take the leap?
Within the first week of being in my role, I decided to ask a question, the question about the population that was near and dear to my heart, which is, please tell me how many foster children do you serve? What are their conditions? What are their acuities? What are the service gaps? And the answer that I got from the team saying, we can get it to you, but it is going to take a week. And please let us know what other reports should we deprioritize in order to meet your need, which was really, highlight of if I want to be successful as a leader, taking this organization to a new level, taking this organization to the space where we can meet the regulatory expectations and expectations of providing quality services to our enrollees, then there is a need for the data accessibilities and their resources, both human resources and the system resources, to be able to answer business questions, solve business problems, produce the data, and inform our strategic and operational direction.
So I know why that's near and dear to your heart, because we've talked about this a lot, but I'm sure our audience doesn't. Can you share with us a little bit why that issue was so near and dear to you?
So the way that I actually got involved with HSCSN is back in 2008. I adopted my daughter from Child and Family Services. She was in foster care, and my daughter was an enrollee of HSCSN.
Okay.
So for 8 years, I was not only on the board of directors of HSCSN, but also a parent and a caregiver receiving services from the organization. So actually seeing some of the challenges that I experienced as an executive in the organization, I could also see how those challenges translated into the services that the enrollees receive, and some of the questions and the problems that parents, caregivers, and enrollees pose to their care managers that that the organization may not necessarily have the resources or the tools to be able to answer or address timely to the expectations that the community has of us.
So I remember when we first started talking about your digital transformation, that there was a lot of fog of war. There was a lot of things that you had been told couldn't happen. There was an awful lot of paralysis by analysis going on. Was it scary to take the leap to like into this project? If you'd known now what you knew then, what would you have done differently?
I don't think that it was scary. I think it was really the realization that it was the only option that I have. And I kind of clearly remember the moment when I asked our IT leader at the time to share with me the all of the data sources that we received, the map on how this data are received and how this data integrated, so to be able to understand our ability to report and where the issues are. And what I received was the PowerPoint. It was a slide that had the logos of all of the different vendors that we interact and the vendors that supply the data, and no flows because that was not available. So at that moment in time, it really didn't matter how scared I was, but it was the decision that needed to be needed to be made, that this is the path of digital transformation is the only path, the most important path that we can take as an organization, and it has to be the top priority. The question really was, how do we take that path, what that path looks like, and how do we prioritize the myriad of issues that exist, and put the noise aside and be able to see that and identify, decide on the clear path that is affordable, that would allow us to make incremental improvements to be able to sustain our operations and show improvements to our constituents, both the enrollees and the regulators, to be able to leverage kind of the low-hanging fruit, and also the path that is sustainable within the culture of our organization, and the organization that is really not technology savvy, and the change management had to be a big part of that transformation.
Yeah, so those were big challenges you faced, the prioritization and the culture change. What are you proud of overcoming?
Wow, there are so many things that I am proud of. So it's been 4 years that since 3 years since we embarked on the strategy, and
Yep.
4 years since that light bulb, the realization that this is something that we had to do. So now data is the integral part of our organization. We still have plenty of room to grow, but right now,
Yep.
when making the decision, the leaders, their direct reports, the managers, and even all the way to the frontline care managers, they have the tools and the resources to be able to answer the critical questions and receive the data to help them prioritize their activities and to be able to receive a feedback on how well they're doing. So that was possible through implementing the new care management system.
Yes.
And that actually, maybe I will take a little bit of a step back.
That'd be
There
great.
are three critical systems that we have within the organization. Data warehouse, our care management system, medical management system, actually, and
Mm.
our claims system. So those are the three critical systems. So care management is the largest part of our workforce. So when we looked at the prioritization, while we were improving the data and rebuilding the data warehouse, our early successors had to be focused on enabling the change and making the work of our care managers easier,
Mm-hmm.
faster,
Mm-hmm.
smoother, and the resources to be more accessible. So we started with a re-implementation of the care management system. We implemented it on time, on
You
budget,
did.
and received fabulous feedback from our care managers. We are a year and a half in, and I can see definitely the change in the employee satisfaction. We can see the change in availability of the data. We see the ability to prioritize, to build the queues, to identify enrollees, to run the reports, to provide leadership with the visibility and almost immediate feedback on how well we're doing, to be able to identify, build the care path for our population, something that we haven't been able to do before electronically. And on October 1, we're actually going live with our first ever enrollment portal, which is a direct digital tool to be able to enable our care managers to communicate through the use of the computer and their cell phones with
Mm.
our enrollees. The second huge success was that we built out within the guiding care, which is our care management population, a module for utilization management and
Yes.
appeals and grievances. So again, we have module for UM? Yes, it was together with our claims. That was not the most effective way for us as an organization, a small organization where the care management and UM really needed to be more closely integrated. So by being able to bring appeals and grievances, utilization management, and the care management, we now have a holistic view of our enrollees and the
Yeah.
interaction of that enrollees within our medical management system, which again provides helpful insights on how how not to silo the resources in the interventions within the organization, but use an organizational approach in kind of tackling some of the challenges.
You
We
know,
are.
that's
Mhm.
when we went through the process of breaking down your overall architecture for your data at HSCSN, you basically had an architecture where you had a care management system that had gone through a bad implementation and that everybody had been unhappy with for years, that was fused to your claims management system. And the claims management system was working well, and the care management system was working very badly. And partially as a result of that, you had bolted on half a dozen other systems all around it that weren't integrated with either system, none of which work together. So you could never get a picture of the whole. And we didn't implement the care management system for you, but we helped you pick it to make sure that it was the right one. And by figuring out how to decouple those two systems, and you were able to eliminate a lot of point solutions. I talk to CEOs at MCOs who say to me all the time, people come to sell me more point solutions. I don't need any more point solutions. I've got too many things, right? Like at the end of the day, we ended up making your application footprint much less complicated by getting you on the right systems. Something I'm proud of.
Well, absolutely, and I think, Jamey, it all really started with you developing the roadmap for us, and
Yeah.
only with the help of that roadmap, we actually were able to prioritize and identify that yes, the care management is the first platform that we're going to tackle, and
Yep.
data warehouse is going to be developed in parallel. And this is the point in which we can start receiving the data from the care management system and ingesting it into the data warehouse to be able to combine the insights of the claims management system with
Yeah.
the care management system,
Yes.
or to produce the larger picture. And all of that was based on the assumptions that we will use the open source software to
Hmm.
contain the costs, and also managing the expectations that you can't really overnight to go from red to green. That really the
Yes.
expectation says that there are certain applications that we're taking them from red to yellow, certain applications we take them from yellow to green, and do we really need to be in green here if this part of their organization is in red? And that was an incredibly helpful view of the entirety of the organization that helped me as the leader of the organization really make informed decision, and then engaged in conversations with the board of directors to help justify the expenditures, which were in the millions of dollars, in order to help enable that digital transformation. I don't think without that roadmap, there would be trust from the board of
Yeah.
directors for a multi-year investment into a large scale project for a small non-for-profit organization. So that's really where it started.
You know, so that process, so that challenge that you're facing, these projects get pretty big, even at a small organization like yours. There are tens of thousands of lines in the project plan of everything that needs to get done for all of these different projects. Having a normalized way of rolling that up, and then having a summary roadmap view that we could show to you and you could show to the board, is so important, because you have to be transparent. There has to be transparency all the way up. This is working, this isn't working, this is going at the speed we expected. The care management happened on time and on budget. This other project took a little longer, right? You have to be able to tell everybody what's really going on, but every level of the organization wants a different amount of detail about it. So we find that doing that roadmap, and that red, yellow, green rating of each business and application area is very helpful for the president of an organization like you, for communicating with not just your board of directors, but your other board of directors and your regulators, because you live in a very complicated environment, right?
I,
Um,
I think, Jamey, absolutely. And I think an additional curveball that the healthcare organizations experience right now, and we experienced as well in the middle of it, is that regulatory landscape changes. So right
yeah.
in the middle of our digital transformation,
Yep.
the federal government released the interoperability rules, which
Yep.
really we had to go back to the drone map and figure out, okay, so now we need additional resources in order to address interoperability. What exactly is the impact of the interoperability rules on our roadmap? Which interactions, which points do they impact? Which additional connections need to be built? What additional partners do we need to engage? So again, kind of the importance of that roadmap and periodic refresh of that roadmap was incredibly important. I think another thing that I would say that was also incredibly helpful is that technology is difficult, IT is complicated, And as a business person, as a healthcare person, as a caregiver, I don't speak the language of technology.
Right.
So the huge benefit that we as an organization derive from working with Agilian is actually your ability to translate the complex technology concepts and the terms into the business language, and to be able to translate the business problems, the healthcare problems that our enrollee face, the delivery issues, into the
Yeah.
technology language to implement the solutions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Um, so in our roadmap methodology that we use, we consider you to be coming to the completion this month of what we call the journey phase. So we do road mapping, and then we do journey, and then when we get to the third phase, we consider that to be improvement, continuous improvement. Like, because now you've got the systems you're going to be able to make. Um, do you have any as you finish the journey, do you have any stories or anecdotes about moments that you realized that this was working? Because when you first get started, there were a lot of people, there were a lot of naysayers and cynics on your team, which we embrace, because they've been hurt before, right? What made you realize that you were getting traction?
Oh, what a great question. I think first that I would say that, yes, there are always naysayers because nobody
Yeah.
believes that the technology project will be delivered on time, on budget, and meet the needs of everybody within the organization. That said, when the PHE ended and the
Yes.
government started re-enrolling and redetermining eligibility for Medicaid beneficiaries, we started noticing that a large number of our enrollees lose eligibility. And first in May, June, there were a handful of people, handful of enrollees. Then in July, August, were a couple of hundred. And then September, October, we lost close to 1,000 enrollees
Yes.
from our health
Yes.
plan. And at the same time, we started receiving increased feedback from our enrollees that the redeterminations, that they are not getting the redetermination notices, that the termination the reason for termination do not reflect their actual life situations. For example,
Right.
it says that they lost SSI eligibility, and relative that didn't lose SSI eligibility. So we engage with our regulators in the conversation about kind of help us figure out what's happening, because we have 1,000 kids that cannot get access to the life-saving services that they need. We had kids who had to rewash their GI tubes. We had kids who could not get
Yeah.
access to their epilepsy medications. So huge implications for lives of our kids. And the district at the time was also struggling with figuring out like what is happening with the DCAS system. And even though they had all of the attention and the empathy of the problems of 800 or 1,000 kids within SSI, the scale of the PHE unwinding was in hundreds of thousands of the Medicaid enrollees.
Right. Right.
So where we fell in the priority may not necessarily have been acceptable to me in being able to meet the needs of our enrollees. So we needed to come up with our own data and our
Yes.
own analytics to be able to tell the story to the district as much as we could as to what is happening, why it is happening, to put the hypothesis out there, to be able to engage with our partners, regulators, to be able to solve this problem. So this is when we really kind of came to you and said, okay, so now let's put the enrollment data is already in the data warehouse, and we're developing our data warehouse in the agile way. So we don't have to wait until the full completion to be able to reap the benefits. So enrollment data is already in. What can we do? So no inspiration like desperation. So
Right.
our
Another necessity.
team from different business units came together with your subject matter experts and with your developers to design not only queries, but also the dashboards that would present us with a different views and segment data differently to be able to test the hypothesis, to be
Yes.
able to answer some of the questions that otherwise we wouldn't have been able to answer by bringing all of the different data sets together. And that way we were able to present that information to DHCF, to our regulators, and engage in problem solving.
I think this is, and I learned a lot through this process, because when we first talked about this, and you said, 1,000 disenrollments, and you said earlier that the plan has 5,000 people, that's 20% of your revenue, like lost in a matter of weeks. That is 1,000 notices having gone out to families with children. Some of them were in the NICU, right? Like getting a notice that they no longer had insurance while their kids were racking up $200,000 bills a day. Like that was medical bankruptcy for families on their mind. And if it had happened, it would have been tens of millions of dollars in fines for your regulator. Because the truth of the matter is, like, these kids were not, were required to be insured. To their credit, once we showed them the data, the kids were re-enrolled immediately. They never lost coverage, right? Like, so that's the best possible outcome. But what I'm really proud of was we got the data, we built the reports, and then we collaborated with your team to build this matrix where we went from the federal reg to the local reg to the data to the proof, right? And it was very clear that these kids needed to be covered, and you did an incredible job of partnering with the regulator and getting everybody on the right page to get to the right outcome there. So, and
I would
it
also
really,
say,
go
I would
ahead.
also say, Jamey, that another huge benefit of the data was that as a non-for-profit, mission-driven organization, it was very important for us as an organization, for our board of directors, like to your point, right? Make sure that while there are issues and challenges exist in the systems, that the children who really should be receiving services
Yeah.
do receive continued services. So
Yes.
having the data and the analysis and supported data provided confidence both to our board of directors to vote to take the risk and at the expense of the organization to continue providing coverage to those enrollees while the regulators are re-enrolling them. And it's also provided the confidence to the regulators that, yes, this kids really should be re-enrolled. So we are okay for the health insurance plan to continue providing coverage.
Just and really, if 3 years ago you hadn't decided to take the leap to get to a single source of data truth, we never could have done that analysis in time. So just I really want to applaud your visionary leadership there, Anna. I'm a huge fan. So
Well, thank you. It's a partnership. So, and the journey
it is
continues.
fantastic. Well, so we're getting to the end of our time. Do you want to wrap up with anything?
Well, thank you. At first, I wanted to thank Agilian, definitely a great partner, and also to say that it is the first phase of the journey, but the digital transformation is definitely a journey, not a destination. So I am looking forward to with an organization to be able to translate those early successes into the sustainable operational business practices within the organization and continue focusing on our enrollees and how we can improve the services that we deliver in partnership with you.
Since we're not, if I could indulge you for just one more minute, you
Sure.
described to me recently your vision for using the integrated data warehouse to answer some financial questions that you've been having trouble getting to. Could you just say, because that's good, that's going to be the next hill for us. Could you say a few words about what that's going to mean for you?
Yes, absolutely. So, interestingly enough, what we started noticing is that as some of our enrollees lose coverage, they will receive the new enrollees. So the overall enrollment is dropping. The case mix and the complexity of our enrollees is increasing because enrollees who come into the plan through the referrals, they tend to be sicker than the ones who disenroll because of the loss of coverage. And then on top of that, There are new pediatric medications that are specialty drugs that are hitting the market. So that increases our medical spend exponentially. So we had a number of what we at the time considered black swan events in the last quarter. So we had higher than normal utilization, incredibly high specialty drug usage, high cost drug usage, decreased enrollment, and change in case mix. So
Yes.
now we're entering into the phase of negotiating the rates with our regulators. So in order to be able to tell the story of what is happening and to be able to have the conversations with the regulators about the rates, we needed our medical data, our financial data, our encounter data, our enrollment data, and also some external data sources about the pharmacy costs, right? And in
Yes.
one
Yeah.
data source to be able to bring all of that together for a complete vision, to be able to have informed conversations.
Well, we are looking forward to getting to the bottom of that with you. HSCSN is in a pretty unique circumstance from most of the MCOs we talk to, because you basically have the one rate cell, right? Like, so it's, so if that rate cell is off because of changes to the market, wow, that hits you very, very hard. So we need to, we look forward to partnering with you on making sure that those economics are right, because you've got good partnership if we can show them the data.
I think,
right?
yes, and I think, Jamey, another kind of huge benefit, you mentioned the financial data, is right now is the time to innovate. And one of the tools that we have as a health plan for innovating is the value-based payment, alternative payment models.
Yep.
So in order to be able to deploy those models in the intentional way, and to be able on the continuously evaluate whether we're getting the return on the investment for those models, and whether those models actually hit the mark and get the outcomes, the intended outcomes, we need data, and we need data to be easily accessible, the data to be accurate, and to be able to share it, to be transparent with our regulators and with our stakeholders, which are enrollees and providers. And that is part of our next journey.
Fantastic. Well, Anna, thank you so much for your time today. If anybody's listening to this and you're interested in getting control of your data and lowering your footprint and lowering your complexity and increasing your retention, because that's actually where we find that these engagements pay for themselves, please reach out to us at www.agilian.com. We would love to have a conversation with you. And Anna, we loved having a conversation with you today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.